version of the Orion Nebula. One thing you may notice that I've pointed out before about this place is it is highly holographic, and it contains very, all you have to do is just look at it for a couple of minutes. It's not like any other. This is just something fun I wanted to show you real quick. This is a view of the Orion Nebula right here inside my paint program. And what you're looking at right here is an altered view of the Hubble version of the Orion Nebula. One thing you may notice that I've pointed out before about this place is it is highly holographic, and it contains very, all you have to do is just look at it for a couple of minutes. It's not like any other nebula out there, and I've looked at a lot of them. It contains very high holographic images. This, for example, I'll just circle a couple of these for you so you can see what I'm talking about here. That comes across that you see right here. This is God's arm. It's also the corpus callosum of the brain. We have some other interesting images. We have this woman right here. We have this old man right here. We have this woman right here. Zoom in on her. It's amazing how detailed they are, and their facial features remain proportional, which I think is also very interesting. Here she is right here. You can see she's kind of looking in the direction of this trapezium right here. Her long hair and her face, and you can see that all of her facial features are proportional. This kind of thing happens all over this nebula, and it's got things all the way down to things that I've shown you, such as vertical.
Maybe that's why we see faces in the clouds, folks. Same thing, you know, it's just built into the matrix.
Gray, bones, things like this that you can see linked together. Right up in here, you can see vertebrae inside this area right here in several of these things. You can see very holographic, very distinct images inside this nebula. This is not something that you'll find in these other ones. Now, here's one thing I wanted to show you that's the coolest thing. This is the red dragon. See, the thing is that pareidolia that they talk about, if you've ever seen examples of pareidolia, they show you things like a plug outlet or something like that, where you see holes and then the ground, and the ground is the mouth, and that's your face, and that's what pareidolia is. But what we see here in the nebula is something highly detailed. The red dragon is what you're looking at right here. And I'm going to show you a comparison here, but what we're going to do is we're just going to knock the levels down. So we're going to knock those levels down right here. Okay, I still had her face selected over there, so let's try this again. Alright, we're going to knock our levels down again. So we're going to choose a dark spot right near this thing.
What he's picking out is this right here. See it?
And if we take a look at our red dragon, you can see our red dragon right here, and I'll just show you a comparison. Here it is. And all of this is inside the nebula, as you can see.
There's the eye right there.
Just scoot it over here just a little bit.
Look at that, that's insane.
So as you can see that the red dragon and all its details that you see right here are inside the nebula. From the snout to the eye, which I colored a different color, but you can see the eye right here. all the way to the ears that come all the way back, the structure of the face. And see, you could call that pareidolia, but the thing is that it's so proportional all the way to the ridge above the eye, the snout, shape of all this, that it's my belief, especially since we see these things, type of things painted in the churches.
And there is no place on earth that displays this reality more than Tiahuanaco, Bolivia. It is a creation that has had men scratching their heads for more than 2,000 years. It is quizzical and perplexing, and yet its understanding and its answer is patently obvious to one who is willing to accept the impossible. To understand this figure, one must do something that is counterintuitive to intelligence, and that is to ignore it. Don't look upon this ragged figure or its infantile artwork, and instead look at what is beneath it, because what is beneath it holds all the knowledge. What is beneath it is a door, a doorway. And a doorway is an entryway that will ultimately lead you somewhere else. It may seem to be a relic of a bygone era, and it may also appear to be incomplete and lacking in structure and knowledge. To the contrary, it is vibrant, brilliant, and bustling with undiscovered awareness, shouting, crying, and begging for one of us to look closer. The doorway is the key, and what makes it a key is the fact that it unlocks hidden and ancient mysteries all over the world. A doorway is always found in holy places, and it is created in every record and every holy carving depicting the afterlife. And yet, what is the most astounding part of this doorway is the fact that it was found in Nazca, Peru. Not only are there lines here, there is also a door, a doorway. It is a mountainous doorway, and it also has the graven image that shows a strange alien who appears to be greeting our new world. A doorway as plain and as common as it may be is ubiquitous in holy carvings. Whether Sumerian, Babylonian, Egyptian, it's everywhere. And although Sumeria was the oldest ancient civilization on Earth, astoundingly, when this doorway is found in their ancient culture, it is called a gateway. The doorway was found to be a mystical symbol and a representation of the heavens and the netherworld. And yet what confirms the purpose of this doorway is found in its quiet, ancient, and unassuming name. And the name is Tiahuanaco. And this name means the gate of the sun.
Yeah.
There is a mystery associated with the Orion constellation found in indigenous cultures all over the world that dates back to ancient Egypt. More specifically, if one does the research, they find that the Orion Nebula tends to be the areas of focus being pointed to. For example, the Mayans of Central America described the nebula within their three hearthstones creation myth. The three would correspond to two stars at the base of Orion, Rigel and Siph, and another Alnitek at the tip of the belt of the imagined hunter, the vertices of a nearly perfect triangle, with Orion's sword, including the Orion Nebula in the middle, seen as the smudge of smoke from copal incense in a modern myth, or in an ancient one, the literal or figurative embers of a fiery creation. Another example found by Gary David in his book titled The Orion Zone shows that the ancient Hopi ruins were also modeled after the Orion constellation specifically. In another example, the
Across all cultures, folks, Orion's affiliated with earthly heaven. So,
pyramid with the eye found in Ecuador in South America by Klaus Dona is several thousand years old. This pyramid also glows in the dark with hit with a black light. If one turns the pyramid over, there are 4 letters and a picture of the constellation of Orion. The 4 letters were of pre-Sanskrit writing. This means that the writing was older than the oldest writing. The 4 letters were later deciphered to mean the Son of the Creator comes.
Son of the Creator.
Before he passed away, John J. Harper wrote an article titled Sons of God. We read the following. The Great Pyramid at Giza contains the secret to the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth in our cosmos, the so-called riddle of the Sphinx. This article reveals that the formula of reincarnation within the star clusters of the Orion Nebula. In fact, it is the same story of creation embodied in the design of crop circles, sacred sightstone megaliths, and the zodiac that speaks to our origins and destiny as a star-seeding civilization. Ultimately, we have rediscovered the secrets to reincarnation that were embedded in the Great Pyramid stones at Giza and the tombs in the Valley of the Kings. They and other related sacred site structures all seek to help us recapture our roots in the stars and point us back to our home, the twin Earth in the star nursery of the Orion Nebula. Egyptologists, however, must be restored to integrity, wholeness, here and now in order to open the stargates to our physical immortality. This is the meaning to what Jesus commanded in the Gospel of Thomas, make the two one again. He was speaking to the science of soul, Kabbalah. The focus of the mystery school initiations was to cross oneself by aligning the 7 major chakras with the subtle energy grid matrix of the Earth, Sun, and galaxy, the cross of Christ. This, then, is the meaning to the second coming of the sons of God, Jesus, Osiris, Quetzalcoatl, and many other superstars in Era 2012. There is evidence to suggest that the knowledge the ancient Egyptians possessed about enlightenment, our energy chakra system, and its connection to the stars was carried over into the Greco-Roman world and finally into the Vatican. A collection of ancient Egyptian religious texts from the time of the Old Kingdom. The pyramid texts are the oldest known religious texts dated to approximately 2400 to 2300 BCE. Written in Old Egyptian, they were carved on the walls of the pyramids at Saqqara during the 5th and 6th dynasties of the Old Kingdom. They provide the earliest comprehensive view of the way in which the ancient Egyptians understood the structure of the universe, the role of the gods, and the fate of human beings after death. Isis was a goddess in ancient Egyptian religious beliefs, whose worship spread throughout the Greco-Roman world. Isis was the first daughter of Geb, god of the earth, and Nut, goddess of the sky. Isis married her brother Osiris, and she conceived Horus by him. Isis was instrumental in the resurrection of Osiris when he was murdered by Seth. This myth became very important during the Greco-Roman period. The worship of Isis eventually spread throughout the Greco-Roman world, continuing until its suppression of paganism in the Christian era. The Catholic Church has what is claimed to be the oldest continuously functioning internal legal system in Western Europe, much later than Roman law, but predating evolution of modern European civil law traditions. What began with rules, canons, adopted by the apostles at the Council of Jerusalem in the 1st century has developed into a highly complex legal system, encapsulating not just the norms of the New Testament, in and kept out of the Bible. The Church has taught us salvation is the act of God, whereas the Book of Wisdom, also left out of the Bible, teaches us salvation is the act of wisdom. So we find throughout the Bible that the words speak truth, but that man's interjection and twisting of its words has taught us a completely different story. This assumption is also supported by another quote within the Gospel of Thomas. For Jesus said, "The Pharisees and scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and hidden them. They have not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to do so." The representation of Jesus dying on the cross his crown of thorns, is to teach us how with the proper steps of enlightenment, how we can also make the two one again and become one with the universe. The crown of thorns was not only worn by Jesus, but also by the Supreme Mother Goddess of the Tibet. The Supreme Mother Goddess of the Tibet is also seen wearing her crown of thorns, sitting underneath a caduceus. The caduceus is also another representation of the chakra system and the tree of life. When one's Sahasrara chakra opens, their crown chakra, it is said to be their crown of thorns. The next part of this presentation will prove to you that this ancient knowledge not only still exists in the church, but that it has been suppressed and kept secret, contrary to the teachings of Jesus and other great teachers such as Thoth and Hermes Trismegistus. But if they would look into the ancient symbolism, but see, people just don't normally do this. The average public, they just don't normally go out and look for stuff like this. But when they do, they find out that this ancient symbolism, all of this symbolism is extremely important. And by looking at the symbolism and by looking at the art and stuff like this that we find in all these places, we get to the truth. But they knew this. See, whoever's trying to keep us from the truth, they knew this. So what's the easiest way to keep people from the truth and keep people from exploring stuff like this? Scare the hell out of them with it. If you don't want people to look at stuff, you hang hell over their heads and you scare the hell out of them and you tell them not to look at stuff. Because if you look at stuff, the boogeyman's going to get you. And so it works. It's worked for centuries. And so people, now we have the mainstream out there, and we have Mark Dice, and we have all these other stations out there, all these other channels out there, that they flash the triangle with the eye in it, and they make it seem like it's something bad, when in fact, it's probably one of the most important symbols we could imagine. Let me show you something real quick. We know that this right here refers to Osiris. It refers to the central sun. Let me show you a piece of art right here. This is called Supper at Amos, Pontormo, and this was done in 1525, a good, 80 years before the King James Bible was published. And here's Jesus, right under the eye with the triangle. So does this mean that Jesus was an Illuminati? Does this mean he was an Illuminati, Freemason, all this other kind of stuff that they've come out with? And by Freemasons, by the way, have put out all kinds of good information, and they're just another thing demonized by the church. I suspect that it is mostly some faction in the church that's trying to keep this stuff from coming out to people. I don't know why. I can't figure it out why. But I can tell you that, like all these things that I've found in these cathedrals and stuff, they weren't supposed to be. They did this art in such a way that the church wouldn't catch it. But they knew that eventually someone would figure it out. So what they did was they put it all over the churches, like Michelangelo's painting, and like what we see in the Mother Jesuit Church and stuff like this. But just like anything else, folks, we can't just say, oh, well, if it's in the church, then that must mean that it's something bad. No, folks, you have to investigate. You have to explore. You have to say, well, this is interesting. Look at this piece of information. I said there are deeper meanings behind this. Some of these meanings are extremely metaphysical. Some of these meanings have layers of meanings when it comes to the symbolism. But the mainstream hype that's been put out there to scare everybody from this stuff, that's not what we're interested in. That's all mainstream hype. And so although Mark Dice can put out stuff like Illuminati in every single one of his videos in the title, and that may grab the mainstream common man, people that can look beyond that and understand the symbolism for what it is, both cosmically and what we see it in man as well, we know better. But it's time to start. It's time to stop being afraid of all this stuff and start digging into the esoteric information of what it all really means. We can clearly see people have been hiding stuff from us for a long time. But it's time to start. It's time to stop being afraid of all this stuff and start digging into the esoteric information of what it all really means. We can clearly see people have been hiding stuff from us for a long time. And they've been doing it with fear. Scare the hell out of people and they won't look at it. Scare the hell out of people and they won't go explore. That seems to be what the church has been doing. The esoteric information of what it all really means. We can clearly see people have been hiding stuff from us for a long time. And they've been doing it with fear. Scare the hell out of people and they won't look at it. Scare the hell out of people and they won't go explore. Hang hell over their heads and they won't go explore. That's seems to be what the church has been doing. So we come down here to because these black holes are a lot of times falsified, according to the electric universe, as plasmoids or Birkeland currents here. And here's the part that it says electric galaxies may have electromagnetic hearts, and I think that is an important title right there, and we're going to see why, especially when it says galaxy, because there's a very interesting thing about the Orion Nebula that we're going to see that's very similar to our Milky Way galaxy. So right down here, so I'll just read this part right here. The question for the electric universe is therefore, if black holes don't exist, how do we explain recent observations at the center of our own Milky Way? The well-established study of plasma cosmology shows that galaxies are an electrical phenomenon. It's been found that filaments, arcs, shells characterize the small-scale structure of molecular gas in the galactic center. They are well-documented electrodynamic plasma configurations. This map here and so this is great to before, but if we zoom in, so here is the Orion Nebula, M42, right here. And this is where we are right here. So if we zoom out, take a look, what we can actually see is that, I've got another diagram for you here. And you'll have to forgive me if I have the red and blue opposite. I'm not really sure how that goes, but so here it is right here. We have M42, which is the blue dot, and we have us, which is the red dot. So I don't know whether it should be red or blue or not. But the point is to show you the flow. Because if you remember in the Thunderbolts site or Hollow Science site, it shows that it flows inward towards the spiral element, outward towards the outside of the spin axis. And so if you can see that we are actually downstream from the Orion Nebula, from M42, and as you can see, it's a very large Birkeland current, and it's fairly close to us, and we're actually in towards the arm, so we're actually downstream from it. That these plasmoids, they think that there's a plasmoid in the center of the galaxy. Well, there's something really interesting because the Orion Nebula exhibits a very interesting quality that is a lot like the Milky Way galaxy. Let me show you what I'm talking about.
Oh. What is that?
So here's the Milky Way. Hey everybody, this is a continuation from the Milky Way galaxy, and here's the Orion constellation. And as you can see in both cases, we have something right here in the Orion constellation which looks very similar, except it only has one leg to the Milky Way galaxy. And if we take a look at Mayan history, there is something called hurricane, or I think it was Hunabku, but it's actually hurricane also, and they call it the one-legged one, and that's because this is what they're referring to right here, I'm pretty sure. And so we can see that it's emulating, it's almost like it's a miniature galaxy in a way. And so where the plasmoid would actually be located right in the center of the trapezium. So, and that will actually...
So what if that's what's going on? We're being pulled towards the Orion Nebula because it's a miniature galaxy. You know, the micro to the macro goes us, you know, then the planet, then the solar system, then the galaxy, or then the nebula, then the galaxy, then the universe. I'm sure there's a few more stages in there, but is that what it's all about? Is that why we moved?
One more diagram, and I'll show you what I was talking about as far as the visible versus the... So let me show you one more diagram, and I'll show you what I was talking about in between the trapezium stars. That's where this thing would be located. So let me show you one more diagram, and I'll show you what I was talking about as far as the visible versus the infrared. Okay, so what I've got here is I believe this is the Vista version behind the full color Hubble version right here. But it really shows the current that goes through the nebula. And then I've got this visible version because it really shows you the trapezium stars. So if we zoom in on the trapezium stars, you can see that they're located right here, right? Okay, so the reason I put this visible version on top of it is because I wanted to see where that strongest part was. So if we knock our opacity down on this, and what I used to line everything up was this, the whole bow shock plus this area that you see right here. So you can see that they line up with each other. Take a look at, so you see this this line coming through right here, and sometimes it's good just to, we'll take the levels down just a little bit on this, so we can really see what's going on. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So now you can really see where that would be where the plasmoid is located.
Look at the triangle.
And that is located right where the trapezium stars are located, if you see that. So that is right on top of those trapezium stars. Let's zoom in.
Nuts.
So here is our trapezium stars. You can see them right here. And we'll just actually knock the levels down on this a little bit so they stand out more. Pretty much. So I could be, misaligned just a little bit, but we can see that it covers the area of those trapezium stars, so that's where it's located. And that's where NASA said the black hole is. So for you electric universe theory fans, that would be where you would want to look for the plasmoid if a plasmoid is visible. And I don't know whether they are or not. But the interesting thing about it is we keep hearing them call it the central invisible sun in all this esoteric text. So anyways, it's a clue to go with. But I wanted to show you this. I wanted to show you where we are in the galaxy, how the flow is moving. And it seems since we are downstream, since we're towards the inner part of the galaxy, we're right in line with whatever current would be flowing inward. So it would be flowing right past us. Makes complete sense. And then I also wanted to show you the similarities to the Milky Way galaxy, because since we believe there to be a plasmoid in the center of that, then it's more than likely we have the same kind of thing going on right here, because everything spirals out from that point, and it looks very similar to what we see on the Milky Way galaxy. So anyways, you guys take care.
Okay, folks, to end this video, I just wanted to show you guys a little something. Okay, when I was talking about the Infinite Nine, this is what I was speaking of. Okay. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. So 1 plus 7, because you always reduce it. Or 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 plus 7, 14. 1 plus 5, or 4 is 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. 1 plus 7, or 1 plus 6 is 7. I did it again. 7 plus 7 is 14. 1 plus 4 is 5. Okay, so that brings us to one infinity symbol. I believe this is the formula for matter. And what makes the matter go is the 9, the infinite 9. Okay, you got 6 plus, 6 plus 3 is 9, and the top is 9. So 9 times 9 is what? 81. 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 times anything always reduces to 9. So what does that give us? It's the apparatus, the ether that makes matter coalesce and exist. And what does that give us? What does that give us here? Flower of life. Right? Okay. Also, I don't know if you guys watched the show last night with Wayne Steiger, but here's the infinity symbol. What's the Jesus symbol? That right there, right? We're cut off from the loop. Black hole is creation. Black hole sun is what powers our sun. Take it for what you will. Like, subscribe, share. Love, peace, chicken grease. Thank you.